Yo, Bogdan here. We've got a brand new author's original story for the club today. Let's hit the road. The heavy glass doors of the luxury apartment lobby reflected the flashing yellow lights of the tow truck pulling away. My wife was staring through the glass, her face completely drained of color. Next to her, the lover was practically hyperventilating, realizing that the $95,000 luxury SUV he'd been driving around was currently strapped to a flatbed under my strict legal authorization. She turned to me. Her hands were shaking violently. She looked at the process server standing quietly in the corner of the lobby, then back at me. She tried to cry. That calculated, well-practiced weeping she used whenever she wanted to diffuse an argument. "Adam, please," she begged, her voice cracking as it echoed off the cold marble floors. "It only happened 3 times a year. I'm so sorry. Please, let's just go home and talk. Think about the twins. They're only 4 years old. Don't do this to our family." I didn't yell. I didn't cause a scene. I just opened the thick manila envelope I was holding and pulled out a single, neatly folded sheet of paper, the DNA laboratory results. "I am thinking about the boys," I said, my voice dead calm. "But the timeline on this test proves your little 3 times a year arrangement started long before they were even conceived." She gasped, taking a massive step back as if the paper in my hand was radioactive. She actually thought she could manipulate her way out of this. She genuinely believed that if she played the victim and brought up our children, I would just absorb the betrayal, grieve quietly, and let her keep her comfortable life. She had no idea what I had been doing behind her back for the last 2 months. But to understand how thoroughly I dismantled this woman's life, and how I legally, methodically stripped her of everything she thought she had secured, you have to understand the perfect, comfortable lie we were living. You have to understand the Tuesday glitch. Let's rewind a bit. Because to really feel the impact of that lobby confrontation, you need to know what I thought I was protecting. We had been married for 8 years. I worked grueling hours in commercial real estate, building a career that provided a very comfortable life. My wife worked part-time in event planning. We had a beautiful suburban home and our 4-year-old twin boys. I thought we were a team. I thought every sacrifice I made was building a fortress around our family. Her only real request was Tuesdays. Tuesday was her reset day. She dropped the boys off at her mother's house, and the day was entirely hers. Yoga, brunch with friends, running errands without 2 toddlers in tow. I never questioned it. Why would I? She deserved a break. Then came a random Tuesday in October. I was working from home, fighting off a mild flu. My wife had rushed out that morning, claiming she was running late for a new Pilates class. But in her rush, she left her iPad charging on the kitchen island. I was pouring a cup of coffee when the screen lit up. It was a shared family calendar notification. A glitch in our settings she had clearly forgotten to disable on that specific device. The notification didn't say Pilates. It read Unit 402, 12 p.m. A second later, an email banner dropped down from a high-end concierge service. "Your champagne delivery to Unit 402 has been confirmed. Champagne. At noon on a Tuesday?" I clicked the address. It was a luxury high-rise building downtown, an area known for corporate leases and astronomical rent. I didn't think. I just grabbed my keys. I drove downtown and parked my very noticeable bright blue sedan across the street from the glass-fronted building. I sat there for 20 minutes, feeling like a paranoid fool, desperately hoping there was a logical explanation. And then I saw her. She walked out of the lobby doors, laughing, and right behind her was him, the lover. He was dressed in an expensive suit, placing his hand familiarly on the small of her back. She leaned in, kissed his cheek, and turned to walk toward the parking garage. My stomach dropped out of my body. The world didn't just stop. It shattered. I needed to see exactly which unit she had been in. I foolishly put the car in drive and pulled up closer, parallel to the fourth-floor balconies, trying to get a better look. That was my critical mistake. I saw movement on the balcony of Unit 402. It was her, and she was looking straight down at the street. She saw my bright blue car. I saw her posture stiffen instantly. I panicked and sped off, my hand shaking violently against the steering wheel, but the damage was done. By the time I walked through my own front door an hour later, I was locked out of everything. The shared cloud storage, the family calendar, the GPS location sharing on her phone, all of it, access denied. Passwords changed. I braced myself for a confession. Instead, she went on the offensive. When she walked through the door that evening, she didn't play dumb. She slammed her purse on the counter and glared at me. "Were you following me today?" she demanded, her voice shrill and defensive. "I saw a car exactly like yours outside my client's building, and then my phone alerts went crazy saying someone was trying to hack my accounts from another IP address. Did you try to log into my cloud, Adam?" It was a masterclass in gaslighting. She was using the hack as a brilliant cover story to explain the sudden password changes, while simultaneously attacking me to see exactly what I knew. I realized in that split second that if I confronted her right then, without hard, undeniable proof of what was happening inside that apartment, she would spin it. She would call me paranoid, controlling, and crazy. She had the upper hand, so I did the hardest thing I have ever done in my life. I swallowed my pride and I retreated. "What?" "No, honey," I lied, forcing a look of utter confusion. "I had a site visit near downtown. I just drove past. Why would I follow you? And I definitely didn't try to log into your phone. Maybe you really were hacked?" She stared at me, her eyes darting across my face, searching for a crack. Finally, she exhaled, her shoulders dropping. She thought she had won. She thought she had successfully made a fool out of me. "I'm sorry," she sighed, playing the part of the stressed, overwhelmed wife. "It just totally freaked me out. I had to spend an hour resetting everything." "It's okay," I said, pulling her into a hug that made my skin crawl. "You can't be too careful these days." She relaxed into my arms, completely convinced she was the smartest person in the room. But as I stood there holding my cheating wife, I wasn't a husband anymore. I was a man building a case, and my first stop was the bank. The next morning, while my wife was in the shower, blissfully believing she had outsmarted me, I opened my laptop. I couldn't access our shared cloud, but I still had my own secure login to our joint banking portal. We had been building that savings account for 6 years. It was meant for the boys' college funds and our eventual retirement. I clicked on the statement history and the breath completely left my lungs. $80,000. Gone. If you weren't looking for it, you would have missed it. The withdrawals were staggered and meticulously calculated. $500 here, $1,000 there. Cash transfers to an external account spread out over 14 months. I was the primary earner, focused on the big deposits, and I had completely missed the slow, steady bleed. I didn't wait. I drove straight to the bank and sat down in the branch manager's office, slapping a printed copy of the statements on his desk. "I need to freeze these accounts immediately," I said, my voice tight. "My wife is systematically draining our life savings. She's stealing from our family." The manager looked at the papers, looked at me with genuine sympathy, and delivered a heavy dose of reality. "I am so sorry, sir," he said softly. "But she is an equal account holder. Legally, she has the exact same right to those funds as you do. Without her explicit consent or a judge's court order, there is absolutely nothing I can do to freeze this account. She isn't technically stealing, she is withdrawing her own money. I sat in my car in the bank parking lot for almost an hour. She was draining us to fund her life with the man in Unit 402, and the system was completely protecting her. I was entirely helpless. I realized right then that playing by the standard rules was going to leave me bankrupt and broken. I didn't need a marriage counselor, I needed a shark. I spent the next 3 days interviewing the most ruthless divorce litigators in the city until I found her. I'll refer to her as my attorney. When I laid out the bank statements and the story of the Tuesday apartment visits, she didn't offer me a tissue. She grabbed a legal pad. "Don't move a single cent out of that joint account yourself," my attorney warned me. "If you drain it, a judge will penalize you for dissipation of marital assets. Let her keep taking it. We are going to dig deeper." My attorney initiated a quiet, aggressive financial discovery process using forensic accountants. A week later, she called me into her office. "She's not just cheating on you, Adam," my attorney said, sliding a thick manila folder across her desk. "She's committing federal crimes." I opened the folder. Inside was a bill of sale and a financing agreement for a brand new top-of-the-line luxury SUV. The price tag was $95,000. "She used the stolen $80,000 from your joint account for the massive down payment," my attorney explained. "But here is the beautiful part. She didn't have the credit score or the income to secure a good interest rate for the remaining balance. So she put the loan and the vehicle title entirely in your name." I stared at the signature line. "I never signed this." "I know." My attorney smiled, a cold, sharp expression. "She forged your signature. She listed herself as a secondary driver, and she authorized a third party to operate the vehicle." The lover. She had bought her boyfriend a luxury car using my money, under my name, committing identity theft to do it. Panic suddenly spiked in my chest. Wait. If the loan is in my name, I owe the bank the rest of the money. I'm on the hook for a car I don't even have. Exactly. My attorney nodded. Which is why we aren't just going to cancel the insurance and walk away. This is criminal fraud. If you report this to the police right now, she will be arrested for a felony. But if we do that today, she fights back. The divorce gets messy and the assets get tied up in court for years. She tapped the vehicle title with her pen. "Since the car is legally yours, you have the absolute right to repossess your own property. So, we are going to draft a full police report detailing the forgery and the fraud. But we aren't going to file it. We are going to hold it over her head like an anvil to force a completely one-sided divorce settlement." The trap was set, but I had one lingering, terrifying question. The twins. If she was capable of looking me in the eye while committing federal fraud and maintaining a secret life, what else was a lie? Under the guise of a new pediatric health and allergy screening, I ordered a DNA kit. I swabbed the boys' cheeks one morning while we were watching cartoons. I sent the samples off to a private lab, expedited. I spent the next month putting on the performance of a lifetime. I cooked dinners. I kissed her cheek. I asked her how her Reset Tuesdays were going. I watched her smile and lie to my face, knowing I was quietly building the guillotine. And then, the email from the DNA lab arrived. I locked myself in my home office to open the email from the private DNA laboratory. My hands were perfectly steady. I had spent the last 2 months completely numbing myself to the woman I married, preparing for absolute war. I scrolled down to the summary page. Subject A, Twin 1, Probability of paternity, 99.9%. Subject B, twin 2. Probability of paternity, 0.0%. I stared at the screen until the numbers blurred. It's a medical anomaly called heteropaternal superfecundation. It happens when a woman releases 2 eggs and sleeps with 2 different men within the same narrow ovulation window. The odds are literally 1 in a million. But for me, it wasn't a medical marvel. It was the final puzzle piece. It proved, beyond a shadow of a mathematical doubt, that her affair hadn't started a year ago. It had started over 5 years ago. It completely incinerated the 3 times a year lie before she even had the chance to tell it. I didn't cry. I didn't break down. The last ounce of empathy I had for my wife evaporated, leaving nothing but cold, pure resolve. Tuesday morning arrived. The sun was shining. She poured her coffee, kissed my cheek, and grabbed her gym bag. "Have a good day at work, honey," she smiled. "I'm heading to yoga." "Enjoy your reset day," I replied, not breaking eye contact. The second her car pulled out of the driveway, I picked up my phone and called my attorney. It's a go. At exactly 1:15 p.m., I was standing on the sidewalk outside that downtown glass-fronted luxury apartment building. My attorney was standing to my right. Idling at the curb behind us was a massive flatbed tow truck. We walked right into the private parking garage beneath the building. The security guard tried to stop us, but my attorney simply flashed the legal title to the vehicle and my matching driver's license. "My client is repossessing his own property," she stated with absolute authority. The guard backed off immediately. I watched the tow truck operator hook up the pristine $95,000 luxury SUV. As the front tires lifted off the concrete, the car alarm started blaring. It echoed through the concrete garage, loud, obnoxious, and utterly beautiful. We walked upstairs to the main lobby just as the elevator doors pinged open. And that brings us right back to where this story started. There she was, my wife. And right beside her, the lover, looking incredibly panicked about the noise his precious car was making. They stepped out of the elevator and froze. The lover looked at me, confused. My wife looked at me, the color draining entirely from her face. What are you doing here?" she stammered, taking a panicked step away from him. "I'm taking my car back," I said calmly. The lover puffed out his chest, stepping forward. "Excuse me, that's my car." My attorney stepped smoothly between us, handing him a printed copy of the title. "Actually, sir, it's registered to my client. The massive down payment was made with stolen marital funds, and the financing was secured via forged signatures. If you'd like to dispute it, we can call the police right now and report a grand theft auto." The lover looked at the paper, then slowly turned his head to look at my wife. He took a massive step back. "You told me you bought this with your inheritance." "Adam, please," she begged, her voice cracking as it echoed off the cold marble floors. "It only happened 3 times a year. I'm so sorry. Please, let's just go home and talk. Think about the twins. They're only 4 years old. Don't do this to our family." That was when I pulled out the DNA results. "I am thinking about the boys," I said, "but the timeline on this test proves your little 3 times a year arrangement started long before they were even conceived." She gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. I gestured to the man sitting quietly in the corner of the lobby, the process server. He stood up, walked over, and handed her a thick, heavy stack of legal documents. "You've been served," he said professionally. "What is this?" she sobbed, holding the papers like they were burning her hands. That, my attorney interjected, her voice like ice, is a petition for divorce. It includes an emergency motion to freeze all your remaining assets due to the documented dissipation of $80,000. But more importantly, look at the second packet. My wife flipped with trembling hands to the next stack of paper. That is a fully drafted police report, my attorney continued. It details criminal fraud, forgery, and identity theft regarding the auto loan you took out in Adam's name. It is a federal felony. My wife looked up, tears streaming down her face, sheer terror in her eyes. We haven't filed it with the police yet, my attorney said. You have exactly 48 hours to sign the attached divorce settlement. You will surrender your equity in the marital home to repay the stolen $80,000, and you will assume all liability for the remaining car loan. If you try to fight us in court, or if you refuse to sign, I file the police report and you go to prison. The lover didn't say a single word. He dropped the copy of the car title on the floor, turned around, and walked out the glass lobby doors, leaving her completely alone. She collapsed to her knees on the marble floor, sobbing hysterically, clutching the divorce papers to her chest as the tow truck carrying the luxury SUV drove past the front windows. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't look back. I walked out into the sunshine, got into my bright blue sedan, and drove away. The lover predictably vanished. The moment he realized the $95,000 car he'd been driving was stolen, and that he was standing next to a woman about to be indicted for a federal felony, his deep connection with my wife completely evaporated. He blocked her number that same afternoon. She didn't fight the divorce. She couldn't. Faced with the absolute certainty of prison time for forging my signature on the auto loan, she signed the settlement agreement exactly 48 hours later. My attorney was a machine. To legally offset the $80,000 she had systematically drained from our joint accounts, and to clear the fraudulent car debt she had dumped in my name, she surrendered 100% of her equity in our marital home. She walked away with her clothes, her personal vehicle, and whatever was left in her own checking account. Nothing else. I won't pretend the next few months were easy. Rebuilding your reality after realizing the last 8 years were built on a foundation of lies takes a massive toll. But I had two incredibly important reasons to keep my head up. The twins. I know what you're thinking. One of them is biologically mine, and one of them isn't. I won't tell you which one is which, because to be perfectly honest with you, it doesn't matter. I made a decision the night I read those DNA results, a decision I will never walk back. I held those boys in my hands in the NICU when they were born prematurely. I stayed up with them through every fever, every nightmare, and every milestone. They are 4 years old. They did not ask for any of this, and they know me as their father. Biology is just a science. Being a dad is a promise, and no lab report on Earth changes the promise I made to them. I filed for and won primary custody. It's been over a year since the divorce was finalized. I still live in the house. The boys have a room each now. We make pancakes together every morning I have them, which is most mornings. They're starting kindergarten next fall, and I couldn't be prouder of the little men they are becoming. As for my ex-wife, she moved into a tiny, cramped studio apartment across town. Without my income to fund her lifestyle, and with her reputation utterly destroyed among our mutual friends, she had to drop her part-time event planning gig and take on a grueling, full-time corporate job just to make rent. My MIL called me exactly once during the proceedings to scream at me for destroying her daughter's life. I calmly explained the criminal fraud, the forged signatures, and the DNA test. I hung up. She hasn't called back since. Sometimes, when the house is quiet, I think back to that Tuesday morning. I think about how she smiled at me, drank her coffee, and genuinely believed she was the smartest person in the room. She thought that if she ever got caught, my love for our family would make me weak. She thought I would just absorb the blow. But here's what I learned on the other side of all of this. When the floor tilted beneath me, I didn't collapse. I found my footing. When the banking system told me there was nothing I could do to protect my life savings, I found a different system. If you are sitting somewhere right now, watching your own life develop cracks you can't explain, trust your gut. Document everything. Talk to a professional, because the most powerful revenge isn't rage. It isn't screaming in a lobby or throwing clothes on the lawn. The most powerful revenge is preparation. If you're currently in the middle of a storm like this, remember, the truth doesn't just set you free, it gives you your life back. Don't let someone else's lies define who you are. If this story hit home, please hit that like button and share your opinion in the comments. I'd love to hear your take on how we handled this revenge. Thanks for being part of the club. Stay sharp.